In today's Farm Report, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which would create the world's largest free trade zone, was agreed upon last week by the U.S. and the 11 other Pacific Rim nations. Now it goes to Congress for its approval, and the Obama administration is hoping that the egg community will step up the charge to get the passage done. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more.
The Obama administration is enlisting the help of the agriculture community to sell the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal to Congress. President Obama did an interview with Brownfield Ag News this week to talk up the benefits of the agreement for farmers and ranchers.
This is really a big deal, and the key to getting it passed is just making sure that people are informed about how this creates a level playing field and making sure that members of Congress who represent rural and agricultural districts understand the benefits.
For most agricultural organizations, TPP is indeed a big deal, and they are in full support, pending review of the details. Nick Giordano with the National Pork Producers Council says they're very optimistic about it.
We're confident that this is going to be a tremendous deal for pork producers. Now, again, we've got to carefully go through the details of the agreement, just like every other sector of the economy, but we've been very engaged in the process, and we have every reason to believe that this is going to be an outstanding, best-ever deal for pork producers.
U.S. beef producers are clear winners in the deal with increased access to a number of markets. So Kent Bacchus with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association says they will be doing their part to encourage passage by Congress.
It's absolutely important that beef producers engage with their members of Congress and talk about the important victories that we're seeing in TPP. Not only are we tearing down tariffs and setting a good framework on all the non-tariff trade issues, we're also setting an entire brand new trade framework for the Pacific Rim countries. And if the United States is not going to do that, if we pass on this opportunity, it'll be China setting those terms of trade.
The American Farm Bureau Federation supports the agreement, and President Bob Stallman was one of the agricultural representatives chosen to meet with President Obama to discuss strategy for getting it approved by Congress, which AFBF trade specialist Dave Salmonson admits will be a heavy lift.
Trade is never easy, and putting with the backdrop of the political climate that'll be here in the U.S. Next year, when that bill might go before Congress, will make it a challenge.
The most vocal ag group opposed to the TPP is the National Farmers Union, and President Roger Johnson says they'll be telling Congress how they feel about its lack of enforceable language against currency manipulation.
Congress should reject the notion that this deal is anything different than past agreements that failed to address currency manipulation. Family farmers, ranchers, and rural residents should all be calling their representatives to tell them to oppose the current form of the TPP. It is simply not worth the paper it is written on.
Reporting for AgriPulse, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
Catch the latest in local farm news with me, Scott Colomb, at 6:35 a.m. and 4 p.m. here on AM 960 KLTF, or anytime online at fallsradio.com. The recently agreed to Trans-Pacific Partnership has some members of Congress wondering if it's going to be bad for the agriculture sector, but Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack wants to keep members of Congress in the know that the TPP is good for ag in their state. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack wants members of Congress to know how the Trans-Pacific Partnership benefits farmers and ranchers in their individual states.
Many members of Congress and many senators come from states, for example, that are beef producers. They need to know that the Japanese market, which is an extraordinarily large market opportunity for us in terms of beef, will see 74% of the tariff lines or taxes that have been assessed by the Japanese on beef and beef products will be eliminated over the next 16 years. They may be from states that are heavy pork producers. My home state of Iowa, for example, North Carolina. They'll need to know that the tariffs, 65% of tariffs on pork will be eliminated in Japan in 11 years or less, nearly 80% in 16 years or less. If you're from a state like California, you need to know that tariffs are eliminated in a multitude of horticultural products, from fresh apples to cherries to pears to citrus fruits and juices to grapes to avocados to strawberries to blueberries to cranberries, watermelon, papaya, potato products, processed fruit products, tree nuts, and fresh and processed vegetables.
During a press conference about the TPP this week, Bill Sack was asked about the currency manipulation concerns that have been voiced by many criticizing the agreement, including the National Farmers Union.
Well, currency manipulation historically has not been part of trade discussions and negotiations, number one. Number two, there are mechanisms and processes by which issues involving currency manipulation can and have been handled, and in fact, we're seeing those mechanisms being utilized by the Treasury Department and others to call out manipulation if they see it. I will tell you that from an agricultural perspective, the bottom line is pretty clear here. We're going to sell more American agricultural products across the board. We're going to sell it to an incredibly expanding and rapidly expanding middle class, and American producers and those whose jobs are connected to exports of American agricultural products are going to benefit from this agreement.
Reporting for AgriPulse, I am Cindy Zimmerman.
Besides the usual data sets for October, such as objective yield and farmer reports, the National Agricultural Statistics Service had additional information for this month's crop production reports from the Farm Service Agency certified acreage planting numbers. The result was NASS
revised some of their estimates for some of their planted acreage.
According to USDA Chief Economist Rob Johansson.
Corn planted acres was revised downwards by about 500,000 acres. Soybean planted acres was revised down by about 1 million acres, and that's 0.6% and 1.3% respectively.
And Johansson says those adjustments factor into the October crop production forecast, with corn and soybean production expected to be down about 1% from the previous month. However,
our yield is going up a little bit on both corn and soybeans.
Even with the adjustments, this year's corn crop is expected to be the third highest production total on record, while the 2015 soybean crop will be the second largest crop on record. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.